Well, hey everybody, and welcome back to Oklahoma. So glad you could join me again. Well, welcome to the first video in the series that we're really going to get down to some actual gameplay. Now, if you caught the first video, you kind of have the backstory of this series. If you didn't watch it, I would encourage you to go back and start from the beginning. If you didn't watch the second video, that's kind of okay because there wasn't any gameplay in that video. For those of you who did watch the second video, those of you who actually made it all the way to the end, I want to go over a couple of things real quick that I talked about in that video. Okay, the first thing is, I didn't really set this up very well. So the equipment. Now, if you'll remember from the first video, if you saw it, my equipment is all old, it's all worn out. But one of the things that I did between the second video and this video is I went in and all of my equipment, now my tractors already had the correct starting hours, where I want to start my series with the backstory. They already had the correct hours on it. My Traction King 9247, my 4430 at almost 11,500 hours. So those did not change, but I added, with the exception of my pickup, I added 5,000 hours to every other piece of equipment. And that did two things. One, that basically meant that I was going to have to put some money into every piece of equipment before I could use it, which again, that falls right in line with my backstory that goes along with the series, which if you didn't watch episode 1, that's another reason why I would encourage you to go back and watch it, because then you get the backstory. But anyways, basically every piece of equipment aside from my pickup, I'm going to have to put money into it before I can actually use it to do anything. And the second thing that adding the 5,000 hours did is that I feel like this number is probably going to go up when I maintain it. So these numbers are probably going to go up some, but I feel like it put their values in line better, corresponding to the backstory of the series. So in other words, when I set this series up, when I set my game up, I bought a bunch of quote unquote new equipment, but to go with my backstory, it needed to be old equipment. So I had to devalue, or I had to fully depreciate all of it, so it went with the story of the series. So that was one thing. The second thing is I went in and I edited my save game file so that that I'm basically starting from zero today. This is with all my incomes and my expenses. So in setting up the series and setting up the map and setting up the game, I had to buy some stuff. I sold some stuff, etc. So I had a bunch of like really huge numbers in some of these categories. So I basically went out and just zeroed everything, so that now that the actual gameplay is starting, it's going to track all my expenses and all my incomes, and they will be closer to reality as far as the simulator goes. And the third thing, and this is, I got on my soapbox on this, was the contract. And I like the contracts, and I'm going to do some contracts, but my big problem excuse me, my big problem with the contract, the way the contracts work in both FS17 and FS19, is that we get paid way too much money for these contracts. So if you watch the second video, and if you remember, Field 11, the reward for the contract for plowing Field 11 was actually $19,909. And I mentioned in the second episode that I was going to try to figure out how to reduce some of these reward amounts if I could. And what I did all I did was I went in and I went in my save game files, and I just moved the decimal over one spot for all of these rewards. So instead of getting $19,900 and some dollars, I get $1,900 and some odd dollars. So it is much more realistic When I actually went in and I looked at the every year Oklahoma State University, well, not every year, but every 2 or 3 years, Oklahoma State University does a survey with farmers, and they ask, what is it costing you to have contract plowing done? What's it costing you to have contract cultivating done, contract seeding done, contract spraying done per acre or per bale or whatever? And they list that on one of Oklahoma State's websites. And so I went in and I checked some of the stuff. I said, like, okay, like, what is it going to cost to cultivate 35 acres in reality? And what I came up with is that I'm still, the rewards, even with the decimal place moved over one, I'm still getting rewarded between 2 and 4 times what it would actually be in real life. So I'm going to roll with that. I mean, that's moving the decimal place over for everything. That, like I said, it's still 2 times to 4 times as much as you would get in real life, but it's a whole lot better than, 20 times or 40 times, which is silly. But anyways, okay, I'm done with that. We're going to move on now, and we're going to actually get going on some gameplay. I got Old Glory up there. She's flying proud, and we're going to get on with it. So if you did watch the first video, you'll remember that my 4430 here, this is the only motorized piece of equipment that I have other than my pickup. This is the only tractor that I have that actually runs at the moment. But that said, it's still kind of run down because my uncle, when he got older, he had some health problems, he had some mental problems, and he just didn't take care of his equipment as well as it should have been taken care of. It wasn't really his fault, but I digress. And if you have no idea what I'm talking about, again, go do yourself a favor, go back to episode 1 and at least watch that one. You could, unless you're just really hardcore, you can probably skip episode 2, but I would really encourage you to go back and watch episode 1 because it just kind of sets this whole thing up for you. But anyways, so I went down to the John Deere dealership today, and I talked to the mechanic down there. He's been a mechanic down there for a long time. And he said, I'm familiar with the tractor because your uncle bought it new here way back in, I think he said 1977 or 1978. He couldn't really remember. But he said, I'm familiar with the tractor. It's been in here a couple of times. And he said, really, your uncle took really good care of it. But he said, I haven't seen it around. Your uncle, he wasn't buying any parts, any filters, so... And he was pretty sincere about it. I don't think the guy was just trying to sell me parts, but basically what he said was, hey, you need to change the oil, you need to change the filters, engine oil, you need to change the filters, you need to change the fuel filters. He's like, you probably don't need to drain the fuel because it's been running not too long ago. But he said, all the oil filters, hydraulic filters, all that needs to be changed. Hydraulic oil needs to be changed. He said, I would really run a flush through the coolant system. And he said, I would just do it all now so you kind of know where you're starting from. He said, if you'll bring a sample of the oil in, we can send it off for analysis. He said, honestly, since you don't really know what you're dealing with, that would be the best thing to do. So that's what I did. And whenever it all total, it ended up being... It was going to be about $500 to do all this. So we went ahead and did that. So this baby should be in pretty good condition. So now the first thing that we're going to do, by the way, I got some diesel delivered. Now the cool thing about the diesel from the company that I get it from is that they will bring it out, but they don't charge it to me until I actually use it. There's a sensor on this tank that it's basically connected to Wi-Fi. And it tells their headquarters when I use fuel. It tells their headquarters when the fuel level goes down, and that's when they charge me. So it's cool that the diesel's here for me to use, but I don't actually get charged for it until I use it. So let's run over here real quick and take a look at this field. Now the first thing that I got to do is I got to get some wheat in the ground, because typically here in Oklahoma, we plant our wheat in the fall, and it grows a little bit over the fall, and then kind of goes dormant over the winter, and then picks back up and really gets going in the spring. So I've got this field over here that I was just at. That was in oats last year, I believe. This field over here on the other side of these trees, I think it was in wheat or barley, or could have been canola, or maybe I just don't know. It was in barley. So these were both cereal crops, and I'm doing crop rotation, so I don't really, if I cannot put a cereal on a cereal, that would be best. I'm kind of doing a soybean, corn, and wheat canola sort of rotation going on. So I have a couple of fields over there across the road. Last year, one of them was in soybeans and one of them was in corn. So that is where my wheat is going to go this spring. But like I said, it's spring already and it's not sown. So I got to get going on that. And let's go look right now at those fields. I actually own, so here we are. Here's the farmyard right here. This is where we're at now. And I own 33, 32, 34, 35. So 34 and 35, those are the fields where the soybeans and the corn. So this was 34 was in soybeans and 35 was in corn. Let's see what kind of, okay, so yeah, they're harvested, right? Let's see. So this one actually doesn't need plowing. That's interesting. And 33 does not need plowing. That is also quite interesting. And there's not really that many weeds growing on them. So that's kind of nice. I actually thought I was going to have to pull a chisel through all of these fields. But I'm not going to have to. Now, it's funny because I've been playing Farming Simulator for all this time, for over 10 years now, and the precision farming has been out for probably at least a year now for FS19, but I have never used it before. So the precision farming thing is very much new to me, and I don't know how to use it. So that's going to be kind of a learning curve. If you guys have any advice, please put it down in the comments. Actually, what do you think of the precision farming, especially on mod maps? Is that something that's good? Is that something that's a pain in the butt to use? Let me know what you think in the comments, because like I said, I've never used it before, and I said, you know what, I'm going to use it for this because I might as well. But anyways, needs plowing. So that means the first thing I really need to do is I need to get my chisel hooked up to my 4430. I need to go down here to field 34, and I need to get going on that. So that doesn't tell me anymore whether... Okay, so this used to tell me, okay, does it need to be fertilized, and does it need lime? I believe, yes. So this used to be where it told me, hey, does it need fertilizer? And now, I don't know. This says, see precision farming. It doesn't need lime. Well, I don't know. I'm going to assume it probably needs lime. I don't know that. And I only have, let's see here, we can talk about this as we go. I only have $19,246 now, so I got to kind of spend my money wisely. So what we're going to do first, let's get this thing, let's get her hooked up and let's get her going here. We're going to wheel it up, and we're going to fill her up with fuel here. This is probably going to hurt. Actually, not that bad. We got some cheap diesel. I like it. We're gonna tool right back here to my equipment row. We'll have to get hooked onto the chisel. I'm sure we're gonna have to air up some tires, or who knows, go get a used tire or something, or fix a hydraulic hose or something back here. But we're gonna run back here and get my chisel, and we're gonna go to field 34. But where I was going with that precision farming thing, if I remember right, I think the soil samples were pretty expensive. I'm gonna have to do some research to see if I'm gonna be able to afford getting the soil sampled. And I think, if I remember right, it seems like some of the folks were saying that you had to get a lot of samples to cover your fields. So let's see, and this chisel's kind of finicky with the hydraulic hoses. It's kind of hard to get them hooked up. Kind of got to be just in the right spot. There we go. Hydraulic hoses are hooked up. It actually looks like the tires are holding air, which I'm surprised. But let's wheel this thing down to the shop, and we'll see what kind of maintenance we got to do on it before we can actually get to using it. If you'll notice, all my equipment, if you saw the first video, it's all going to look a little bit older, and that's because between the first video and this video, remember I added those 5,000 hours, so it's going to look a little more well-worn, which is good, because again, that's what fits the backstory of my series here. So we're going to take this thing up by the shop. I have a very limited amount of tools right now, because a lot of the tools, like hand tools, etc., that got used, that my uncle had, got sold in the farm auction that happened last week. That was one thing that the people really that were here really bid on a lot, were with the tools. And so unfortunately, I just kind of have what left, kind of what I owned before this whole adventure started. All right, let's hop out and let's go see what it's going to cost me to get this thing going. It actually looks pretty decent. Looks like I may have a little bit of a hydraulic leak there. The tires are up. The chisel points actually look pretty decent. So let's see, what's this thing going to cost me? If we repair this thing, it's gonna $20. That's really not too bad for a chisel that's got 5,000 hours on it. So yeah, let's do it. All right, so that thing is fixed up, and let's go make it happen. So, like I said, we're gonna go right across the road over here. And we're going to get this chisel put in the ground so we can start working. Oh, I got my trash can out too. That's another thing I did. Got my trash can out. Got my flag on the flagpole. So we are set. I kind of wish I had a pressure washer. First time I have to go into town. First time I have to take this thing into town, I might stop at the car wash and kind of hose this thing off a little bit. See if I can keep her on the road. So yeah, I don't know how many soil samples, I'm going to be able to do this year, because I really don't have a lot of money, and there's something that I'm already going to have a loan for at the bank, and so I'd really rather not. I don't have a loan right now. I'm not in debt at all. It worked out pretty well that that I was able to keep the land I've got that my uncle had, and not be in debt. And I really don't. There's one thing that I'm gonna have to go in debt for, that I'm really not ready to tell you guys about yet. But I got to be really careful, I guess is what I'm getting at. I'm going to have to be really careful with the money that I've got here. I can't just go spending it willy-nilly. I don't have a combine yet. I've started looking for one of those, and I kind of know what my price range is, and it's not much. But that's something I'm gonna have to buy. I'm not really gonna have to have a grain truck, because I have that old gravity wagon that I'm gonna I'm going to be able to use. But I've just got to be really careful about how I spend my money. Fertilizer right now is really expensive. The seed, I think, is going to be, I'm not sure exactly how much I'm going to need yet, but it's going to be pretty expensive. And I know I need to take soil samples, don't get me wrong, because it might end up saving me a little bit of money, like on fertilizer, for example, but I don't know if it's going to be in the budget or not. I might be able to, for one field, for example, be able to soil sample it this year, and then next year, do another one, or maybe do another one this fall or something. I'm not sure yet. Let's go to exterior view here while we're doing this. Might make it a little bit easier to see what I'm doing. Another thing that I'm going to do, or I'm planning on doing, is I'm gonna extend these fields some, and I'm probably gonna do it. I'm probably gonna do it now, at least on a couple of them, because I wanna, I own the property. I might as well make these fields as big as I can now, so that I can, I can plant more acres. I think right now, if I remember correctly, I've got about 60, between the 4 fields, I've got about 63 acres of actually cultivated land, of broke ground, so to speak, that I can grow crops on. And any bit bigger that I can make that is going to be, it's just going to add to my, it's just going to add to how many bushels that I can, get at the end of the year. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to plow this, and I'm going to chisel plow this up, and then I'm going to see how much bigger I can make them, because I want to see how much I can add, like how many acres of broke ground I can add by, making these fields bigger. So I guess order of operations, what I'm going to have to do here is I'm going to have to, I guess now I just got to chisel. I've got 2 fields I'm going to have to chisel. I have 2 fields I'm just going to have to, I guess I'm going to have to disc, because they don't need to be plowed. Unless I'm going to extend them. So if I extend them, it means that there's going to be ground that's not plowed. So when I plow that, I'm going to have to disc that. So I'll do the plowing, then a disc. I'll have to pull a disc over what I plowed, and then really there's not going to be a whole lot of time for weeds to grow, but I'll still probably have to pull a cultivator. I've got a field cultivator that I'll probably pull over the ground that's been disked, so that there's a nice seed bed for the grain drill and for the planter. Neither the grain drill or the planter are set up to do no-till operations or minimum till operations, so that is going to that's just going to mean that I'm going to have to work the ground a whole lot more. And again, so in Farming Simulator, I could probably drag the chisel here, and then I could probably just drag the field cultivator over it, and then I could sow it. But that's not really realistic. Generally, if you chisel something, you're at least going to need to VT it a couple of times, or vertical till, run a vertical tillage tool over it, or very commonplace, if you chisel something, a chisel plow. If you chisel plow something, you would disc it at least probably once, and then depending on how much residue you had on it, you might need to like disc it again at a different angle. So, you know, trying to be as realistic as I can be here, I'm going to do all the operations like I would need to do them in real life. So that means I'm going to do some extra work when I don't actually have to do that as far as, you know, the farming simulator is concerned. So just keep that in mind, because that's one of the things that I'm trying to do here. I'm trying to be as realistic as I can, and so there's actually going to be some added steps that I'm going to take, which I actually, you know, as far as the game is concerned, I wouldn't have to. So what else? So yeah, then after you know, you chisel plow, you run a disc over it. If you've plowed it, and if you didn't have to plow it, so there's going to be 2 fields that I don't have to plow, the majority of them. So I'll probably just pull a disc over them, and then the field cultivator to get the nice seed bed. I actually do have a really nice field cultivator that goes with this tractor. It's a smaller one. It's about 13 feet, I think. So it's a good fit for this tractor. It's a really nice field cultivator. The sweeps on it, so in other words, the blades on it, they're in good shape, and it has a rolling basket on the back. So that should, after this ground is disked, that should give me a pretty good. It should give me a pretty good seedbed when I go to either plant or sow. It should be pretty nice. So then obviously these fields over here, I'll probably plant one of them to wheat. Well, no, I have to plant both of them to wheat because I can't. Down here in Oklahoma, you can't really plant canola in the spring, I don't think. At least nobody that I know has ever. I don't think anybody I know has ever planted canola in the spring. It's another crop that you plant in the fall. So it's pretty much going to be wheat and wheat this time around. This field will be wheat, and the field that's directly behind me is also going to be wheat. So after the field cultivator, I'll pull my box drill over it. It's a John Deere, I believe it's an 8300. Yeah, 8300 box drill. It's just a basic drill. It's got a large seed compartment, and like not a large seed compartment, but you know, a compartment for large seeds. In other words, not grass seeds. It does not have the small seed like the grass seed box on the front of it. So anyways, it's got that. It's got a fertilizer compartment. So I can put down fertilizer with it at the same time I'm seeding, which I'm probably going to try to do because that will just save me a trip over the field. So yeah, the wheat will get put in with a box drill, with my John Deere box drill, and then the corn and the soybeans that I'm going to put in, they will get put in with my 7000 John Deere planter. It's a 6-row planter, so again, it's a pretty good match for this tractor, and it does not have any kind of trash cleaners on the front of it, and the disc blade for it is smooth. It's not even the waffle or the Coulter disc. So it's a smooth blade, which means between it not having trash cleaners or row cleaners and it having a smooth disc blade on the row unit, it basically means that it needs a good seedbed to do an optimal job. Not any no-till. It needs to be pretty. The soil just needs to be in pretty good condition for it to really do its job the way it needs to. So I don't generally, you know, in real life, I got a good friend of mine that they're big farmers. I mean, they've got several thousand acres that they farm, and they don't The only reason that they really do tillage is if, one, they're picking up a new piece of land, they're picking up a new field that they've never farmed before, and they're trying to straighten it out. So in other words, maybe it's really bumpy, maybe there's lots of ruts, maybe it hasn't been ripped in 30 years. So that's one of the reasons why they would do, major tillage work. And then another reason that they would do major tillage work is that if if it's rough, or if they're having areas that are not draining properly, or if they're having areas that that they're having residue issues, or something like that. But they, generally speaking, once their fields are straightened out and they're smooth, and they have a good feel for what the compaction is like in those fields, they're pretty much strictly no-till. They try to till the least amount that they can, and they do a lot of spraying for like weed control and things like that, and that might be another reason why they might do some tillage. If they're having a problem with a really resistant weed that they just can't get a good kill on with a chemical, they might, disc it under. I kind of forgot where I was going. But anyways, once I can make enough money, and it'll probably be 2 or 3 years before I can do this, but once I make enough money and I can get some better planting and sowing equipment, I probably will only plow when I have to. I'm playing FS19 with I forget what they call it, where you got to plow once in a while, like every third crop. I think you got to plow the ground in order to get your optimum, keep your optimum production level. Periodic plowing. I think it's periodic plowing. I'm playing with that on, so I do believe it's every third crop you have to plow, and that'll pretty much be the only time I plow. I won't plow otherwise. Once I get a planter and once I get a drill that I can no-till with, I'm gonna no-till. I'm not gonna worry about plowing every time, because that's really just not. Nobody really. I mean, don't get me wrong. There are instances where people still will pull a moldboard plow in Oklahoma, in western Oklahoma. But it's really not common at all. Like, we don't have, the only exception is maybe with irrigated corn. Otherwise, we don't have the residue problems like that some guys have up north in the northern states in the United States. You guys have to do tillage to manage the residue. We don't have that problem down here because the climate doesn't produce 350 bushel corn. Like, we can't grow that. Even irrigated, it's like we can't grow that. And so we don't have the residue issues that you guys have. So, I mean, really, down here, no-till, with the exception of weed resistance, no-till is kind of the way to go. Well, guys, this video is I've already been talking for 35 minutes. That's pretty much the rundown of what we're going to be doing, and I'm just going to be tooling along here, chisel plowing this ground. I'm going to get this chiseled. I'm going to get the other field. I believe it's field 33, the one that is west of the barnyard. I got to get that thing chiseled, and then we're gonna start discing some of this up. So I think I'm probably going to leave the video running, and I may just fast forward. I don't really know how I'm gonna do this because you know, my other series is a role play series, so it's heavily edited, and it's, you know, you don't see me doing a tremendous amount of the work, the actual field work, which this series is going to be kind of the exact opposite. You're going to see a lot of, a lot more of this kind of stuff, and me actually playing the game and doing tillage. So I don't really know how I'm going to manage that. What would you guys rather see? Tell me in the comments. Would you rather just see me, you know, leave the video running and then me just speed the whole thing up? So I'm, you know, it looks like I get the field done really fast. Or would you rather me just, you know, say, hey, we're at the end of the video here, and just kind of be done with it and let you guys go. Let me know in the comments, guys, what you guys think, because, you know, I've watched some other farming sim YouTube guys over the last few years, but I really don't watch too many of them anymore since I started making my own videos. So tell me what you think. Tell me what you like, because, you know, I'm making this to have fun. I'm going to be farming this anyway, so I figured, you know, hey, let's make a video series about it. But then I also want to keep you guys entertained and not bore you. So let me know what you think. In the next video, well, I'm gonna have to find a disc that this tractor can pull, because that's one of the things that that's one of the pieces of equipment that was actually in pretty good shape. They got sold at the farm liquidation auction, was the disc for this tractor. So I'm gonna have to find a disc that this tractor can pull. So I'm gonna start looking, and hopefully in the next couple of days I can locate that disc, and maybe not spend a fortune on it. It's definitely not going to be a new one. It's going to be a used one. But yeah, so guys, I'm going to let you go. Thanks so much for tagging along. Let me know in the comments what you think about the video and the direction that it's headed. Let me know in the video, or let me know in the comments if there are any gameplay type mods that you guys would like to see me incorporate, because I'm interested in that. Just let me know what you think. I love the comments. Oh, and one other thing, if you see a mod that I'm using and you want to know who the author is or where it came from or where you can find it, just ask me in the comments, and I will I'll do everything I can to help you find that mod, and from a reputable site. So that's all I got. I'm gonna let you guys go now, and thanks for watching, and we will see you next time.